listening?
I just don't care.
No one is ever kidding Michael Cole.
Of course he can roll a grudge forever. This is wrestling.
Welcome back to This Is a Work. My name is David Hensley. I'm the owner and creative director of Long Walk Productions, and I am here to introduce your host, Robert, the distinguished gentleman Brafford.
Thank you, David. Welcome, everybody, to This Is a Work. I'm joined back in the studio by my tag team partner, Chris, the Fashion Plate Barnes. Chris, I felt uncomfortably outnumbered in the when our sister show's hosts from This Is a Takeover came by, so it's good to have you back in here.
Well, they had the easier time because you know what All In was missing? It was missing a bit of the old ultra violence.
Really was. I think people have had a lot of fun kind of demonstrating it's like the people looking out both sides of the bus image.
Yes.
Yeah. But yes, indeed, this is AEW's All Out Pay-Per-View 2024 out of Chicago. They rescheduled it so there would be 2 full weeks instead of 1 between it and All In, which is
honestly smart.
Probably a good call.
They can distance it a little more if they want to.
Yeah. So beverage for this one is Blake's Hard Cider. Just popping that open. On the night of, I was drinking it with a shot of Fireball. Seemed appropriate for the build-up to the main event, but I don't have that with me. So... all right, let's jump into this one, but I'm going to be upfront. I think we can kind of skim the pre-show, which was fun, but just kind of was stuff thrown together.
The pre-show, you mean the extra entire wrestling show they did?
So let's summarize here. It's a tag team match followed by a trios match, followed by another trios match, and then a 3-way trios match. So
it's all worth watching, and it's the pre-show, so you can probably get it off YouTube and go watch it if you want to. But there's a lot. It's like the most they've jammed onto a pre-show card.
Really, it similar to All In. It just sort of felt like there was some booking that was just sort of we want to get everybody visible, get everybody, which nice thing to do for the employees. But
absolutely,
like some of the combinations are a little bit random.
It made me feel even more lucky that we watched it by waiting a day after and just starting in the mid to late afternoon.
Yeah, Gina and I had tickets to see Rent here in Charlotte, or we're in Rock Hill, down in Charlotte on Saturday night, so we didn't actually watch All Out till the following Sunday. So I deleted social media off my phone like I usually do. Chris, I understand you got a couple of indications about where things were going, but...
I saw a few things on Twitter, and then I just straight up read the results, too.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, so we'll just skim past there.
But I had no idea about some of the things that happened.
It'd be hard for like any summary to really kind of capture the full feeling of this one. But yeah, so I'll just quickly read out kind of the results of the pre-show. You have the Acclaimed defeating the Iron Savages, Sammy Guevara, Dustin Rhodes, and Hologram defeat the Premier Athletes. The Bang Bang Gang defeats the Dark Order, and the Undisputed Kingdom defeats the Beast Mortos and Shane Taylor Production and Top Flight. So that's none of those matches were, I think, much past 10 minutes. So they just, a lot of fun action. Everybody gets their spots. Love seeing the Lucha guys still getting some feature after the residency in Arlington, because when they were working those 6 straight collisions down in Texas, I know that was a big time to push the Lucha guys, which is awesome. But yeah, it seems like Hologram and Beast Mortos are still getting some rub out of that, which is good.
Very cool, yeah.
So yeah, I'm just going to kind of give it a collective score of 2.25. Again, they're fun matches, good times, but it's not really story, and it's just kind of...
Oh no, it's the hype show, so yeah.
Fire up the crowd and get everybody excited for the main thing. There's a segment in there where Tony Schiavone introduces Sky Blue, who is they needed somebody from Chicago. Since they're
they could just not go there as much.
That may be happening down the road, but yeah. So Sky Blue's out with an injury, so she came out on crutches, but did get that little pop. Mariah May comes out, does the cheap heat, and then Queen Aminata comes out to chase away Mariah. So that sets up there.
The cheap heat was pulling away Sky Blue's crutches, so she fell over.
I think there was also, I'm trying to remember exactly, Mariah's line was, "I don't know why they call us the Windy City, seeing that nobody here has ever been blown."
Oh, yes, she did say that.
Zing. But yeah, so I think they announced a few more as of earlier today. We're recording this on Wednesday, but as late as Tuesday afternoon, Aminata and Mariah May was the only announced match for Dynamite, largely because it's unclear how many members of the roster won't be in prison or evading authorities, or dead after what we see tonight. But yeah, so going into the main card, we have starting off with Maxwell Jacob Friedman against Daniel Garcia. Singles match, grudge match, no title on the line, just Garcia coming back at MJF for taking him out with a pile driver and a couple of other neck attacks about a month and a half ago. Excuse me. Yeah, I thought this was just fun.
It was MJF doing his thing and Daniel Garcia countering it as best he could.
Set a nice tone for the match where, despite Garcia being the clear face, he's really just in it to hurt MJF. There are a couple of spots in the match where he seems like he could go for a pin, but instead he just wants to keep setting him up for like neck spots and other potential injury moments.
And thankfully, I don't feel like the idea was you should feel upset over it either.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good place to put your face in your heels. Just like, you know what? No, this guy's finally been pushed too far, and this is just what's going to happen.
Oh yeah.
I don't think they've officially announced if Garcia's re-signed with AEW, but it definitely seems like they're feeling pretty positive about it.
Oh yeah, and MJF let him do some wild stuff in that match. There was a jumping pile driver from like the second rope.
Yeah, I think, let's see, MJF did it was Panama Sunrise. That was inside the ring. But yeah, like there were some crazy neck spots in there. And of course you had Garcia got busted open pretty early in the match because he'd been busted open on the previous Dynamite, so he came in with a bandage, which of course immediately gets attacked.
Okay, you will have to skip this match if the following things are not for you: blood, big gobs of spit.
Oh, jeez.
and I don't know, inadvertent mucus, just because there was like bloody mucus at certain points, just because of how it was just rolled out. There's just camera caught it a few times. Just
a lot of fluids in this match.
Good Lord, I hope they were properly tested beforehand.
I have to imagine the medical protocols were a little more rigorous for this show, just start to finish, than usual. Yeah, so again, not really much to describe. It's a hard hitting match. It's good intensity from both guys. Fun to see MJF start with kind of the swaggering heel stuff and then kind of lock into, okay, so I've got to fight back on this. Just a reminder that nobody quite swings from like the character work to the in-ring stuff as well as he does.
He does, and he really did a good job showing off. It's like, oh yeah, Garcia's the real deal. I have to lock in. You're right.
Again, people have been talking for a while about giving Garcia a title run. I was at Revolution when he challenged Roderick Strong for the international title. No, I'm sorry, I got that mixed around. He was challenging Christian for the TNT title, and I actually thought that was going to be his time, but he's young, and that dude's got the whole future ahead of him. And
I feel like they might set him on that path now, because I hope they do, because MJF is taking time off.
Yeah, so the way this all ends, MJF does go over. He gets a low blow in and then just kind of rolls him into a quick jackknife for 3.
Ref distraction, and like you said, yeah.
And so Garcia has sort of a moment where he looks hurt, but MJF does his sportsmanship spot, offers a handshake, and then raises Garcia's arm and immediately turns to try to kick him in the groin.
Garcia intercepts it.
Yep, immediately saw that coming.
He's one of the first people to do it. Like he catches it.
I just remembered, you're a bastard.
And then proceeds to start beating on him until he sends MJF running to the hills.
Yeah, well, so he does a pile driver from the top rope.
That's when it happened, yes.
Yeah, so MJF is laid out in the ring. Medics come in. I think Garcia exits. Yeah, he exits through the crowd.
I think I'm thinking of something else. But yeah, it's like he does that, and he's just like, deuces, I'm out.
But yeah, so they have the oxygen mask come out for MJF. So yeah, like you said, seems like he's going to be written off for a while. Word is that he was not fully recovered from some of the stuff he was dealing with at the end of his world title run. So
it makes a lot of sense, honestly.
Yeah, they definitely wanted him back for All In. But yeah, just good match, hard hitting, great way to start off the show. I gave it a 4. All right. Next up, we have the Tag Team Championship match with the Young Bucks, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, defending against Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta of the Blackpool Combat Club. Interestingly, kind of a weird thing about this match is a lot of the championship matches were being the challenges were coming from people who already had other championships. That's
a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, that Claudio and Wheeler are already 2/3 of the trios champion.
Yeah.
And the third guy on their team, Pac, was challenging for the international title somewhere else on the card.
That's true.
And Jack Perry, the TNT champion, was challenging for the world title against Danielson. So kind of, I don't like to use the term predictable, but it was kind of interesting to look at this card, and a lot of the outcomes, I was kind of thinking, okay, I don't think that person's going to come out of this with 2 belts right now. I don't think that's where they're going, which doesn't have to be a bad thing, but it was interesting how that ended up. Let's say they were very unpredictable in other ways.
I think it's funny you say that because it's a good way of I think they stacked the cards so that the action would kind of obscure that a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's just like, hey, we're not going to do any major changes on this show. I mean, belt wise.
Right.
But because we have enough going on elsewhere.
It is interesting for all the emphasis on AEW as a company that's more centered on in-ring storytelling, on just matches as kind of the main attraction.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more happening in kind of story mode here, like outside of just the bell-to-bell sections for AEW, which nice to see them kind of changing that up.
I think they're working their way towards hybridizing pretty well.
Yeah.
And that probably has a lot to do with the fact that I think things have finally settled for the most part in terms of we keep losing major guys for various reasons. Like Kenny Omega is still out. Adam Cole is he still out, or is he?
Cole, yeah, so he's recovering, but
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons he's been off TV is apparently the travel schedule, like him even showing up in the wheelchair on crutches was still kind of not conducive to healing up his injury.
There you go. And then it's just like other people needing time. I'm sure it'll sway the direction it needs to over time for them to be able to go the direction they need to keep people healthier.
Yeah. Yeah, and so this, kind of similar to All In, this match did not feel like it got up to that insane register that the Young Bucks matches sometimes do, which isn't a bad thing, because I do feel like I'm not as hard on them for the, they're just spot monkeys, they're just, I don't agree with that criticism all the way, but I do think there can be a sense of and then this crazy thing, and this crazy thing, and this crazy... And I kind of like this was just a straight-up tag team match.
And I think it helps that, again, since it's part of the storyline that they're fully in EVP mode, but in a realistic sense, they also understand this is their company. They know the real the main is the big important thing. So it's just they don't have to steal the show.
Yeah.
They understand that it's their show either way.
Yeah, it was interesting that when we were watching this, my wife Gina was kind of a little annoyed because she was like, "Oh, the Bucks win. They always win." So I actually crunched the numbers a little bit to look at who's of the people who have had lengthy championship runs, who are the winningest champions in AEW, and I'll give it up to Gina. The Bucks are up there. They are the second winningest. They've had the second longest amount of time between the tag and the trios titles of anybody on the AEW roster. They're tied. Kenny Omega's in first place between his world title run and his time with the tag championship with Hangman and then the trios. But yeah, so the Bucks are up there. I don't hate it because I do think they're both within the company and just legitimately they are considered to be one of the top tag teams in the world.
Now, are they the tag team that's had the most title?
I think they've had the most days with it. I believe also because this is their third championship run, I think. So I think they're also...
for anyone who's upset about that, that's going to wind down. Over time, that's going to wind down, whether they want it to or not.
And also remember that people were kind of, when Cody had his time in AEW, the thing on him was always, he never should have locked himself off from the world championship. That was just a mistake, that it made it feel like he had his own. It was treated as important without the necessary stakes, and that's just what kind of. I think that's a little maybe oversimplified, but there's some real truth in that. That maybe the fact that Kenny and the Bucks were willing to keep themselves in the title contention and also go heel kept them a little more vibrant in AEW, where Cody kind of trailed off a little bit.
It either should have happened later, or there should have been some kind of loophole to allow him to do it at least once.
Yeah, like a story building to him coming back to the title. Again, that's an alternate history. Cody is clearly very happy where he is right now, and he's doing great stuff there, but definitely an interesting kind of what could have been. So yeah, we're talking about that instead of the match, because again, good match, some fun spots, kind of interesting for me to look at in context of what's coming later. The fact that, as with a lot of the Young Bucks matches, they pretty quickly go into just double teaming their opponents constantly. There's not a lot of adherence to tag rules. But interestingly, there's a big part where Yuta's in the ring and they're working him over, and Claudio's just not even on the apron. He's just standing on the ring or on the floor outside, kind of watching it happen. And when he gets tagged in, he comes in for the hot tag and kind of cleans house.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that he's sort of sitting back, just sort of watching Yuta get his ass handed to him. And then, and of course at the end, Yuta is the one who takes the pin. That Claudio sets up Nick Jackson with a superplex. Yuta does a splash, but Nick gets his knees up and does a quick crucifix pin for a 3. So again, similar to MJF Garcia, not a decisive victory, but the Bucks do retain. I give it a 3, and yeah, so fun match, but like I said, interesting kind of to consider, like Yuta and Claudio's dynamic here, and what's still to come on the card. Let's see. Next up, we have speaking of the Trios Championship, Will Ospreay defending the international title against the Bastard Pac, and I love that there is just clearly like. I think it's just a wall of index cards in Tony Khan's office with just like a list of the guys he can't wait to throw at Ospreay.
Oh, sure.
Just to like have like this is going to be a pay-per-view match.
I believe I called this 2 things. One, I said Ospreay is how England views itself, and Pac is how the rest of the world sees England. And then 2, I feel like this match is basically, if you watch this match, you kind of pretty much get Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
That's only because I keep saying Pac looks like an orc in the ring.
Yeah, he's got resting goblin face. Yeah, but it's...
The only thing scarier is seeing regular Pac outside of the ring in normal human clothes.
That is honestly just seeing him in like with his hair back and glasses and just looking like a short regular man.
Where do you do IT at?
Oh, man. But yeah, so this was something they've been building actually since before All In, because Pac actually had won a number 1 contenders match back in July. And then after Ospreay lost to MJF, he was granted the rematch for All In. And Pac was unhappy about this, and he expressed his unhappiness in a great moment where Ospreay comes to the top of the ramp to yell at Ricochet. And then we just see Pac's legs appear over his shoulder as he whips him into a poison Rana from behind. Just like... Oh, just a wonderful sneak attack moment.
Cut to that "we'll be right back" graphic.
But this was one that everybody kind of knew going in. Like, these guys are going to go crazy with each other. Pac is one of the best sellers in the business, and like Ospreay can keep up with him. They were going at it. Like,
no matter how smart you are, you watch a match like this, especially with Pac in it, and you just like, that man's trying to legit murder someone tonight.
Yeah, really is. And I'm starting to think that, does Ospreay just have this chemistry with everybody, or is he that good at? Because they had one set of exchanges. Like, I don't want to just list the whole thing off, but it's like dodge a kick to a drop kick to like practice a standing moonsault, but Ospreay gets up to catch him, and then like it turns into a tornado DDT, and it's just like the number of spots that just like the absolute confidence that you're going to be right where I need you to be, and and we both know exactly where this is going right after that.
The crazy amount of trust and execution that takes. Your brain has a hard time processing it.
And honestly, even though Pac does not go home with the win, again, he looks so ferocious in this. Just and the amount that it takes to keep him down. let's see, I think he takes, it's a hidden blade, a Styles Clash, and another hidden blade
Yes.
is what it finally takes for Ospreay to get the pin just after, and Pac is up fairly quickly after that. That it's very, Ospreay wins, but it has a very strong feeling of could have gone the other way and all through the
absolutely.
match. So, yeah, I just love this one. 4 1/4. Like,
Absolutely.
Ospreay has been on one of the most amazing runs because every time I started looking at it, it's got to slow down, right? At some point, like he just
And being in AEW has been great for him because it's just been like, go. They've been like, yes, go, and it's just like he's been able to showcase himself finally over here as much as possible.
yeah. It does not always work for people to bring like an outside style in but he was almost engineered, it feels like, to be the guy that you just turn loose in AEW. I saw somebody make the observation on the site formerly known as Twitter that it's like, he's like, guys, I'm going to confess, I don't really think AEW ever would have booked Gunther as well as WWE has. And I kind of get what they're saying. Like, WWE is an environment where you can build that kind of monster heel and have that run of dominance. And I'm looking at AEW and I'm like, I don't know if they could have had, because this is the kind of run they like to have, where it's a guy like Ospreay who just has like 5-star after 5-star after 5-star. I didn't give this one 5 stars, but like that's the kind of thing they do, and it's just an interesting reminder that, like, you know what? There was a time when I would have said, I wish everybody was in AEW. AEW is so wonderful, but that was largely because WWE was in kind of a creative slump when AEW showed up on the scene, and it's
funny you said that because as you were going into that, I was thinking, it's like, I wonder, because it's different because he has fought Danielson, but it will be different when he has to work with someone who will not force, but will cause him to have to adapt to a slower style, like someone who can stop him and slow him down.
I'm trying to remember someone like Powerhouse Hobbs or Lance Archer, like throw him at like a monster
like that.
guy.
Yeah, because that's going to be a very interesting moment, because so far he's been able to go against people who can keep that pace.
Yeah.
But it's like, but when you go against someone like you said, like Powerhouse Hobbs, or someone who's more methodical, not even more technical like Brian, but more methodical, and more power based, that'll force an interesting change up. And I'm sure I'm not familiar with his work in Japan, so it's like that probably already exists somewhere.
Yeah,
but
I'd be interested to look back at Japan and see him against someone like Ishii or Suzuki, where there is just more of like the slow, grounded, chop submission style. But they're clearly not going to run out of anybody for this style with him for right now, because they've got Ricochet waiting down the road.
Right, and I see what they're saying about Gunther too, because I mean he worked that style before getting to WWE. And it's just like, yeah, you're right. Like, I think did he work in ROH? It was in something before. He was in there something before NXT. But it's like, you're right. It's like it is something that AEW would have to find a way to adjust to.
Yeah,
because he's always been that kind of direct, not slow, but
methodical. I think is a good word.
Methodical is a good word. Directed. It's like he's pointed. It's like he will do this for as long as it takes to make sure his opponent is vanquished.
Yeah. And it does make me feel good about the state of pro wrestling right now, to look at both WWE and AEW and to be able to clearly say, like, okay, these are like, this person is in the right place in WWE and this person is in the right place in AEW, which isn't to say they couldn't have a good run somewhere else, but it's just like, okay.
And it is because WWE has always favored that kind of style.
Yeah.
And AEW has been like, it's like let's give the Lucha and the cruisers, and cruisers specifically, give them more time to shine. There's the reason Darby Allin climbed to the top like he did in AEW.
It really is kind of like if that, like in the heyday of WCW, when you had that just amazing undercard on every show, if you didn't have the ceiling on that by like the entrenched old guard.
No, it's maybe sometimes not as great, but still pretty good undercard, and then there's like a main event that is generally awesome.
Yeah. So let's see. So yeah, I gave this one just general meditation on the state of wrestling, because it's hard to talk about an Ospreay match without just going to a list of spots. And this
makes you reevaluate what you think about wrestling sometimes.
About a lot of things, about wrestling, about physics, about what the human vertebra can endure. So I gave this one 4.25. Again, great match. Not as up there in drama as some of Ospreay, as like his match against Danielson or Takeshita, but those are kind of all-timers in AEW. So yeah, 4.25 here. Great stuff. And moves forward into our first women's match of the evening, Willow Nightingale versus Chris Statlander in a Chicago street fight. You know, I actually, former, host emeritus David Two Dogs Hayes was not able to join us for watching All Out. I actually really wanted to get his take on this match because I happen to know Dogs is not a big fan of Statlander and Willow. So I was kind of wondering if like a match that is very much a rough and tumble, like not technique, just grit, charisma, and violence, if that would be something to bring it out a little more.
You know, I could walk 100 feet that way and get him up here to ask. Except for down a microphone, never mind. But we could still, like, he's right there.
If I cover this, can I shout all the way down? Just see if we can hear back.
Hold on. Do you really want to do that? Because if so, I'll just take all the microphones out.
No.
No, let's put a tag in this, and if we have him back on as a host at some point, I'll be like, Dogs, 9 months ago, AEW had a match where...
Yes, we need a dog signal.
I feel like
there's a
maybe-
whistle that I can blow that at a frequency only he can hear. But
Well, how about maybe as a current host, I give it a shot.
there you go.
It was awesome.
Yeah, I love this one.
They beat each other senseless, and it's the kind of thing. It's like and it's great because you don't get to see this kind of thing done for women's wrestling here.
You really don't, and I appreciate so much that AEW offers that there's just a fearlessness to be like, yeah, women can spear each other all through tables, and you know, this match ends with Willow getting like both choked and by a chain that's also wrapped through her mouth. Like,
Yeah, it wasn't a women's street fight. It was a street fight, just like any of the other ones you've seen.
yeah.
Was it Willow who got sent through the announce table?
Willow. Yeah.
Because she got sent through it.
Oh my gosh, there were some just nasty spots in here.
Absolutely.
Statlander takes a light tube to the head. Willow gets speared off the ramp through some tables.
Yep.
There was one bit that was, oh my gosh. Statlander had Willow on a table outside the ring. She goes for a swanton, and Willow rolls clear but doesn't get all the way. So it looks like the back of Statlander's heel just clocks her on the back of the head as she's rolling. And so for a minute I was like, that could be bad. They both got up and seemed fine, but man, yeah, just good, nasty match.
It's what a street fight is supposed to be: knockdown, drag out, and at the end, the chain spot you mentioned was the finisher.
Yeah, and I can't imagine how tough it is to be backstage knowing that you've got the lights out cage match coming up, which is obviously everyone's talking about is going to be like the crazy one of the night. So how do you plan this out in a way that's like, okay, we want to offer something kind of different, but not like it's still got to be your no DQ weapons involved match, and
It's got to be a hard fight, but at the same time, this is still a sanctioned match. So,
yeah, it had that. I think you're right that they aimed for the spot of, you know, we're gonna settle this in the ring, but not quite at the okay, one of us is going to get murdered tonight vibe that Swerve and Hangman had when they showed up, and even to the end, like leading into that chain spot, it actually ends with them kind of facing each other and like they're both tired out and exhausted. Statlander's at one point she actually turns it into a strap match, like she gets a chain from under the ring and like puts one end on each of their wrists.
oh yeah.
Which is a fun thing to see the heel do in this match. That Statlander's not really playing the chicken shit in this one.
Yeah. She says, I want to up this as much as possible just to prove a point.
But they end with like almost like a leaning on each other, kind of an embrace. Like they're both exhausted. Maybe there's a moment of remembering the friendship they had. And then, Statlander gives Willow a tombstone and, puts the chain around her neck, wraps it again through her mouth, and pulls her into a crossface with that. And Willow submits. And, that was just a fun match across the board. Just nasty, both women committed. Like, I wouldn't say either of these women are the most polished wrestler on the women's roster, but they both just have, like, such a high stat in one area or another, no pun intended. Whether it's like Statlander just being such a crazy athlete or Willow just having this just incredible natural charisma.
They make up for their shortfalls with enthusiasm, for
Yeah.
lack of a better word. They put their all into it.
Yeah, and just the crowd connected with that. Like that was just good match. I gave it a 4. Curious to see where they go next because I do like. What's up?
Are you saying they put their all in to it?
And they let it all out.
It's good to have you chipping in, David.
That's all I'm here for, aside from watching the time code and running the board.
I am curious to see where they go after this because Willow and Statlander have been like, I think it's going on 9-10 months now between their tag team leading into the feud. So I like the idea of Statlander having a heel run in the division, though. Given the fact that both the TBS title and the women's world title are held by heels, I'm not sure if she'd be the person to challenge right now.
I'm not sure what the timeline is. There's definitely going to be a run back.
Yeah, they can get back to that. But I think, honestly, just like pairing Statlander with, I don't know, Thunder Rosa or somebody else, just have like a, because I'm definitely a fan of there being just an ongoing non-title involved women's feuds.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Like Deonna Purrazzo and Thunder Rosa just had, like, never had a pay-per-view match, but, just tore it up on a series of collisions. And yeah, it's good to see that, like, the women's roster getting that exposure as well. All right, so we go into the four-way match for the AEW Continental Championship. And I didn't mention this one earlier in the one about people already being champions challenging, but I forgot Mark Briscoe, who's one of the competitors, is the Ring of Honor World Champion. So it's
That's right, yes.
Kazuchika Okada defending his title against Orange Cassidy, Mark Briscoe, and Konosuke Takeshita. This match really felt like it slowed things down after the intensity of the street fight, but I don't mean that in a bad way.
Right.
Like it felt like the right kind of, okay, let's give everybody a chance to breathe and brace for what's coming up. Like a lot of, just segments in a four-way, like combinations of two wrestlers and then occasional spots where everybody got involved. And I actually really like that. It's like, it's a breather match that doesn't feel inessential. It just feels like, okay, now we're back to just 4 people wrestling for a title, minus the crazy personal
The palate
stakes.
cleanser.
Yeah. And man, that crowd got excited for, like, because anytime it was just Okada and Takeshita in the ring, that's when the crowd really got fired up. So they're definitely setting that up.
Oh yeah, almost certainly. If they hadn't been 100% confirmed on it before, it's like I'm pretty sure they took notes on that crowd reaction.
Yeah, it's something I was hoping for, but I really now think they are setting up Takeshita as going all the way in the Continental Classic this year. Because he just had a showing in the G1 over in Japan that was apparently really fantastic. I've only seen clips, but
Nice.
his matches with like Jeff Cobb and some of the others just looked incredible. So great match, 4-way, nice bits with both Cassidy and Briscoe being not just both faces, but also they're part of the conglomeration. And oh man, Mark Briscoe, every time they cut one of their promos, I don't know if they can keep that going forever, but I'd sure like to see them try.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so again, not much to say, just eventually Briscoe gets busted open really early, and the thing about him is he always blades like right near his eye, so it looks like it's either the eyeball or right next to it that's just is where all the blood's coming from. That for some reason just makes it look so much nastier than your regular Crimson Mask.
He probably figured out that it does look, that the way it looks is very intense, and it's probably, I would also imagine it's probably something he can do by feel real easily.
Yeah, I can believe that.
Because I know when people mostly do it on the forehead, you have to probably feel out for the right spot. But I'm betting he probably has done it enough that he can just like, oop, up to the eye, like changing a contact, just like, boop. I mean, you don't go in the eye, but...
I just imagine, wrestlers who are used to that and like any other thing they do around their face, if their instincts ever kick in and they're just like, ah, man. But yeah, so let me ask, going into this, did you think, well, I know you said you'd seen the results, but ahead of the pay-per-view, did you think Okada was going to retain?
I honestly, that's one of those ones, I would have leaned towards yes, because I think until it kicks off proper, where there is a group that is decidedly trying to stop the Elite together, I think they're going to hold on to it for a while.
Yeah, this is the one match where I thought maybe we were going to see a title change hands, because especially in a 4-way, you can have him
You're
lose
right.
the belt without having to take.
It is the most possible one. You're right.
Yeah, but yeah, they're still keeping the Elite on simmer, which part of me wants to hope that this means that we're relatively close to seeing Kenny Omega come back, because obviously he's gonna play a part when all this eventually comes together. But yeah, so they do end up with Kazuchika Okada hits Orange Cassidy with a Rainmaker, pins him to retain. Yeah, I gave it 3.5. So again, fun, and that makes it seem like a step down. It's not a step down in quality, but it is just deliberately meant to give everybody a chance to catch their breath.
Yeah.
And I think it's a smart place to put that on the card. I think they also, after learning their lesson at All In, because I think there it was Ospreay versus MJF got followed up by Mercedes Moné and Britt Baker, and that match was not super well received.
That's what I heard. I still haven't gone back and watched All In, but I did hear things about that. Both extreme, but at the same time, even people who were up on it were just, they weren't super on it.
Yeah. As with a lot of discourse, especially around women's wrestling, I think a lot of the criticism can be overblown, but yeah, it was one of the weaker matches on the card, and I think relative to being built up as sort of like it's the one of the aces of the original AEW versus the hot new star in Moné, and I think it does suffer a little bit in comparison, because we have here in Moné defending her TBS championship against Hikaru Shida, kind of the same setup, like one of the originals, one of the earlier women's champions. And they do click a lot better. There's still some rough spots, but like Shida and Moné definitely seem to be on a much better wavelength than Moné and Baker. And I'm trying not to assign blame to one party or the other, but yeah, this match worked better, and I think still not great.
No, but they did that apron spot, didn't they? The drop onto the apron. Is that what happened?
With Britt and Shida, or
No. I mean, in this one, Shida and Moné.
oh yeah, no,
that one always looks nasty. It was fine. It didn't go wrong. It was just like it always looks nasty when they do it.
yeah. No, and the thing is, I don't often complain about the booking of Dynamite where they like have this or that match and people are like, what are you doing giving that away for free on TV? Because a lot of the time that can just be amazing.
But I don't think they remember how much of that kind of stuff they gave away for free on TV.
Seriously. But in this case, I do think this match might have worked a little better if we hadn't had Mercedes and Shida have a match on Dynamite ahead of All In. Because it sort of does feel like it would be really cool if this was their first time meeting and Moné was almost running a gauntlet of like two former women's champions, two big stars of the division, and she's got to make it through. And especially with this one where Shida has gotten the Christopher Daniels to agree to ban Camille from ringside, which is just the kind of common sense thing you would expect baby faces to do all the time.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't even like she won a match and got to choose a stipulation. And she was just like, no, she's obviously going to cheat. You shouldn't let her do that. That's a good point.
And they were like, oh, snap, you're right.
Keep the giant blonde backstage. But yeah, so again, and honestly, that does give a good story, because it's nice that Mercedes can't just rely on her enforcer, so she's kind of desperately scrambling to stay alive, and it's a nice story of her, trying to ground Shida constantly, like working her limbs.
Yeah, it's like you're working without a net now. Have fun.
Yeah, and it's the classic. She knows that one of Shida's finishers is that spinning knee strike, and so she like at one point catches it and turns it into like a dragon screw and a knee breaker. So it's just working her down. So by the end of the match, when Shida does connect with it, it's too weak and she still can't. It's not quite enough to put Mercedes away from the pin. So. Again, the execution was not always there. There was one, I think it was a sunset flip to the bottom turnbuckle that was really awkward. Like Shida hit like one of the ropes instead of just landing in the corner. But definitely a stronger showing for Mercedes. Wish they hadn't. I don't love this spot really ever, where the face just gets frustrated in the match and goes to pick up a weapon.
Yeah.
So Shida does that. She grabs a kendo stick and Aubrey is right there, and it's just like, don't do that.
Well, at the very least, it's more germane to Shida's character. as she's been shifting her character around. It's something that's more in line with her than a lot of other people, at least.
Yeah, I think it works better if you don't have the ref standing there just clearly saying you're going to lose the match if you do this. So
I think what they need to communicate more is that, at least depending on the person doing it, it's just like they should get across more. That's like, oh, it looks like they don't care as much about winning the title as they do punishing their opponent for being out of line.
Yeah, and like that I can get to, but here it just sort of felt like she was frustrated that, dang it, I'm like my knees giving out. I can't quite put her away with my conventional finisher.
I know, I'll just hit her with something.
How come nobody thought of this sooner? Yeah, so eventually, she decides not to go through with it, throws the kendo stick away, and Mercedes is able to hit her money maker, I think it's called.
The important thing is she stretched for time so that she could get hit with this move.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a setup there. But yeah, Mercedes pins her and goes over. I gave it a 3.
Yeah,
solid match. Good showing. I really want Mercedes to be worth the money I'm sure they paid to sign her, and I still sort of feel like it's not there compared to someone like Ospreay or even Swerve, who at the time who just had his big deal extension, but we'll get to that later.
I'm going to reserve judgment for at least one more pay-per-view match.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like they've still got time with this.
Because if the chemistry doesn't line up again, the only constant there each time will have been Mercedes.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are coming already to the what is officially the main event of these sanctioned cards.
This is the sanctioned main event.
The American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, defending the AEW World Championship against the scapegoat, Jack Perry. Jack Perry, popular guy in Chicago.
Drives his own short bus.
Yeah, so we actually do get the run up to the match is sort of a Dark Knight style overhead filming of Jack Perry driving the scapegoat bus through the streets of Chicago while you hear like the voice of a police dispatcher just describing it as he drives to the arena, presumably observing all traffic signals.
I think he said it was like no crime. Basically, he's like announcing it like no crimes have been committed. This is just kind of neat.
Anybody else seeing this? What do you know? But when he gets to the arena, so he parks, he gets out, and the Bucks are waiting for him. He walks through, flanked by security. Nice big deal entrance for his world title shot.
Sorry, I just realized inevitably they'll show back up in Chicago for an event, and someone. I don't know, solo or with someone else. They need a Blues Brothers entrance.
I was actually surprised the Young Bucks didn't do that for their thing. They could do that, like just the vests and the.
No,
the
I need someone else to have a cool moment. I don't want them to have that.
I can honestly, if not for everything else going on this card, I could have seen Claudio and Moxley doing that.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes they show up as Legion of Doom. Sometimes it's the Blues Brothers. You can never tell. Yeah, so let's see. Yeah, so Jack Perry comes in. Boos are there, but not as overwhelming as you might have thought, given his history with Chicago's own CM Punk, which I'm okay with that. I think this whole character was built to sort of absorb the permanent heat he would be getting from a certain section of the fans.
Right, and I'm grateful too that like they're gonna at least throughout this match and beyond boo him on his own merits instead of just booing him out of loyalty.
Yeah,
I guess
that it feels like he's getting booed because of heel work, like he's getting booed for particular spots and not just that guy's in the ring and he sucks.
Right.
Which is nice because I actually really liked this match. It looks like Danielson is going to be using the final countdown for all of his pay-per-views for as long as he's the AEW champion, which seems appropriate since he's announced that as soon as he loses the title, that'll be the end of his full-time wrestling career. I really like it. This match reminded me a lot of when Hook challenged Samoa Joe for the world title. I think it was earlier this year. not quite that lopsided, but the sense of they never really try to make you think that Perry's got the upper hand and that he's going to win this. It's to the extent that he has the upper hand, it's just that he's fighting mean and Danielson is a little more honorable about it all.
Slightly.
But he's still Bryan Danielson, and like Perry is biting off more than he can chew. And we can talk about the go home later, but I really like how it's sort of built to kind of okay, now we're done screwing around.
Yeah, it really does turn into a moment where it's like, okay, I've let you have your fun. Time to die.
Yeah. And it's just, so Perry does some nice, he's got this recurring thing he's doing now. It's not a full like crucifixion pose, but it is like arms out to the side, fists clenched, with his long hair and beard as he
That's the Raven pose.
I think that's...
And it fits because Raven's character was always, he would go on and on about how the world has wronged him, and it always ended with, what about me? What about Raven? It was always a, woe is me, look how the world has been, how I've been put upon and how I deserve better.
Yeah.
And it fits immediately.
It really does. Also interesting that after his kind of absence following all the All-In drama, Perry had that run in New Japan. Mm-hmm. Feels like he kind of wanted to come back and try that style of Danielson, because this is a very chop-heavy match. A lot of like strike spots.
They do the chops back and forth to the point where Jack Perry lands a few on Danielson, and then Danielson turns around and lands his, and they're like twice as loud.
Okay, all right, not bad. Here's how you do it.
And then Perry responded later with one of his own that was really good too.
Yeah. Like it was that nice thing of just, again, like showing him ramping it up and like bringing everything he had, and then realizing once he'd done all that, nope, Danielson still had more to come back with. So we do eventually get a ref bump in here, where because ever since he pinned Danielson in the Anarchy in the Arena match, Jack Perry's been using Danielson's running knee as a finisher, and so there are a lot of moments where they're both trying to set the other guy up for it. And Danielson finally gets him in the corner, is going for it, and Jack yanks. Yeah, he pulls referee Bryce Rimsberg into the path, and Rimsberg takes the bump, which apparently gave him a pretty nasty shiner at some point.
He showed it off on Twitter.
Poor Bryce. That dude, he has become the go-to ref for just getting actually struck by wrestlers, because he was the guy that at Revolution that Hangman beat into the ground when he got angry at him for not making the 3 count. He's just been... but now normally the face would spend after the ref takes a bump, the face would normally be concerned. He'd be trying to wake him up, like, oh no, we've got to. Nope, Danielson's like, oh well, I guess I'll keep hurting him till Price gets back up, and starts doing his stomps, and then we finally get interference, which given that the Elite had actually stayed out of each other's matches for most of the night, that both the Bucks and Okada won without any interference, but they do come running in at this point. Start beating on Danielson.
You wanted to see the Young Bucks again, right?
Exactly. You can never have too much of the EVPs. And then Claudio and Wheeler Yuta come running down and chase them off. And so they're getting back up. Again, a little more trading of spots. And there's a great bit where Perry takes a running knee from Danielson, and somehow I've watched it and tried to figure out the physics of this. He runs towards him, is moving off the ground in the air, gets hit, and then spins off laterally parallel to the ground at a 90-degree angle from where he was moving previously.
Yes. Oh my God, that man spun.
I don't know how he did it, but I'm just I think he just actually bounced himself off of Danielson's knee. That's the only way you can
normally
make that work.
need to hold on to something to spin like that.
Yeah. Oh man, but yeah. So let's see.
Well, everything was smooth sailing from there. Nothing else happened.
And I'm trying to just mainly do this because I really love this go home, because eventually from there they have a trade of forearms. Perry gets him back to the corner, and here's the spot where I love, because he's chopping on him in the corner, and then you just see Danielson's eyes change a little bit, because he's just been okay, I've got the measure you now, Junior. And he just starts walking out of the corner, no selling, chop after chop after
that's
chop.
Right, yes.
Yeah, and so from the rest of the match, it's just Perry trying to scurry away, just trying to escape. And at this point, Danielson's chopping and hitting. He does a German suplex. Perry lands on his feet and then gets hit with a running knee again. It's just, they both know it's like, okay, as soon as I catch you, it's done. And they're just playing out that last bit, which I love is a great way for a face like Danielson to finish a match. It's not a desperate last minute reversal. It's not a, oh no, he can't possibly come back. Wait, he somehow did it. It's just, no, this guy's maybe the best wrestler in the world. Mm-hmm. And this Perry kid's pretty good, but he is out of his league here. And yeah, so he stomps him down, goes to the corner and sets up for one last running knee, does the yes chance. And Perry, and love this go home, gets up to his knees and just does that arm spread thing one last time.
Well, hold on. Did we get to the other interference?
That didn't happen until after the match.
Did it not? Oh,
Yeah.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah, so...
that's right. Yeah. Jack Perry does this smug little,
Yeah, like...
go ahead, end me.
I shall become more powerful than you can possibly... Oh, God, my face!
It hurts so bad.
Not the pretty part. Not the pretty part. So Danielson does the running knee, finally pins him for 3. And then almost right after the bell rings, Killswitch comes charging into the ring and beats Danielson to the ground, as we all suddenly remember that Christian Cage at All In won the Casino Gauntlet match and so has a chip that he can cash in to win or to earn a world title shot anytime he wants. And they have a nice little moment where Killswitch looks over at Jack Perry and they both remember Jurassic Expresses gone by. And Christian's music hits. He comes out with Shayna Wayne and Nick Wayne. They're making their way down, and who should be in their way but Jon Moxley?
Joined quickly by Yuta and Claudio.
Yep. So they all stand staring him down, and eventually the patriarchy turn and walk back up. They come back in the ring. Danielson's got a big smile. They hug. Mox even gives him a little kiss on the side of the head, which is a totally Jon Moxley thing to do.
And certainly not a portent of doom.
Nope. They stand in the ring. Pac is out there as well.
Yeah, he came out to join him,
yep.
to join in the celebration.
They they stand around Danielson, arms raised, and Claudio Castagnoli.
He raises his arm awkwardly and accidentally catches him.
Yeah, total mistake, absolutely.
And just instead of raising his arm up in the air, European uppercuts Danielson to the ground.
Which I'm sure happens all the time with Claudio. Everybody knows not to take it personally.
But Brian seemed really upset by it. He's just surprised, really.
Well, he was clearly hyperventilating, so Moxley gave him a bag to breathe into. So we've all seen this happen. So Claudio turns and decks Brett Danielson with a European uppercut, and we realize, oh my gosh, they're turning on him. We've seen this happen a million times, so we know what's going to happen.
He's going to hit him a lot, right?
Yeah. So Claudio and Mox they're gonna put the boots to him. They'll put him through a table, maybe bust him open. No.
Or just try to kill him.
Yeah, Mox is just going to nonchalantly shove a plastic bag over Danielson's head and pull it tight until he stops moving. And he's not shouting at him. He's not like freaking out. Mox just has this kind of casual, okay, when I'm done here, I got to remember to get my parking validated on the way out of the arena. It's just the most, and the crowd is chanting, "This is murder."
They're correct.
This is murder.
And and sadly, everyone else was in on it, except
Wheeler Yuta, who, is frantically trying to reach Danielson, while Pac, who had been kind of hugging him beforehand, turns it into sort of a sidearm chokehold to keep Yuta from reaching him.
Not even hard though. He's not like wrenching it in. He's not like. I'm not sure how this is going to play out because we're recording this on when Dynamite is happening.
Yeah.
So we don't know the fallout quite yet, but he's just holding Yuta back just hard enough so that he can't do anything.
Yeah. All he can do is just cry out for him.
He's just crying out, "Shane, come back, Shane." Yeah.
And oh my gosh, so Mox had been off AEW TV for a while. He showed up on the Dynamite after All In and just kind of indicated that there was a new direction he was going in. Oh, we forgot to mention, Marina Shafir also shows up.
Yes.
Because she's been joining Moxley and just beating up security guards backstage and everything and just indicating that they've got some big disruption planned. But you kind of were just wondering, so is the Blackpool Combat Club done? Is Mox just going off in his new thing? Are they going to address it? And it turns out, yes.
There's going to be a rebranding. Yeah.
So, yeah, we're in a very interesting place because Danielson, they don't even have a stretcher. I'm assuming they're keeping them all on standby for the the match that's coming up. So they get an oxygen mask on him and just kind of
and
carry him.
we can talk about it later, but this is apparently about where the online pearl clutching started.
Oh my gosh. Because this is so much more civilized than, this is an industry that's had Inferno matches and matches.
We can save that for later.
Yeah.
And also it's important to know this is a direct callback to something that happened during a Terry Funk Ric Flair feud. Funk did this to Flair.
Oh, he actually did the plastic bag spot? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because Funk in his career has never been shy about I'll fucking kill you in a match.
Yeah, and sometimes honestly, just again, they could have spent 5 minutes just smacking Danielson around the ring, but everybody's still talking about this.
But again, much like Funk, Moxley is definitely the person who's just like, I'll just fucking kill you.
Yeah. No need to drag this out, man.
No. Also, he respects Danielson too much to drag this out. He just wants to end it quickly and, I don't know about humanely, but just quickly.
Somebody pointed out there's a fan video from ringside, but if you watch the moment where he hugs Danielson and gives him that little, that Godfather kiss, you can see Yuta kind of turn his head a little bit to be like, that's a weird thing for him to do. Oh my gosh. So I'm excited for where this goes.
It's also spiritually similar to Joe Pesci's death in Goodfellas.
Oh my gosh.
He walks into the room and he goes, oh shit.
And it makes me wonder, so are they going to vacate the trios titles, or is Yuta just going to awkwardly continue defending
They
them?
might just vacate Yuta. I'm betting it's going to be you can either fall in line or get out kind of thing.
Yeah, I can see that. And honestly, he got into the Blackpool Combat Club by having all the members beat the crap out of him, and that's probably going to be the way he goes out of it, too.
Oh, jumped in, jumped out, huh?
Yep. All right, so at that point, the lights go out, and our card has officially ended, but...
Show's over, let's go.
The AEW brand is still everywhere, and an AEW referee is still in the ring, and the AEW production team is still putting videos on, as we go to the unsanctioned lights-out steel cage match, where... Swerve Strickland and Hangman Adam Page are going to finally just figure this out with reasoned discourse and just kind of nuanced considerations.
I believe the phrase is two-fisted diplomacy.
This whole story is just
I talked about it after the show. Is the interesting thing about this is people can pick sides for whatever reason. But it's done such a good job of being nobody's right.
Yeah,
nobody's right.
And it takes a real deftness to pull that out because it's so easy to just be I don't care about either person in this feud.
Yeah.
But these guys are so good when they're in the ring together that you can just appreciate why both of them are doing what they're doing and just want to see where it goes.
It's you can say Swerve started it and he didn't back off.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Hangman knew he was crossing the line and just was let's see how far we can go.
Yeah, that Swerve was the guy who's just I'm comfortable going further than you are. What are you going to do about it? And now the last 9 months of Hangman's life have been, you want to see how far I'll go? You want to see? And yeah, so I have some friends outside of our circle who don't watch wrestling or even have an adjacent to, but occasionally I'll just reach out to them and be I just want you to be aware that in pro wrestling right now, one of the big stars just signed a contract extension, used the money to buy back the childhood home that he grew up in.
People rightfully pointed out on Twitter, when he was showing that off and celebrating about getting his home, was you don't celebrate about nice things in pro wrestling because you know what happens next.
And yeah, what happens next is Hangman films himself going there, splashing gasoline, and then just sitting in an armchair outside with a glass of whiskey while it burns down behind him. And... what I really love especially is that apparently this was kept very close even inside the AEW locker room, that Swerve legitimately got messages from people being oh, congratulations, man, that's so great. And he apparently just he was thanks a lot. No, it just means a lot that I'm here at this point in my life. But yeah, so... Yeah. After the Texas Death Match, where, you have infamous moments like Swerve getting a drawing by Hangman's kid stapled to his face, or Hangman literally drinking the blood that is dripping from Swerve's face, or just how do you top that? And the thing is, I don't think you do. I don't think you go for...
They remixed it into something entirely more deranged.
But what's honestly really great is they find okay, these guys are not at the same place that they were when that match happened. Let's have that... And let's work that into the story of this match. And yeah, so it's basically just the point that like both of these guys have lost any semblance of anything other than just I want to destroy. There's a great bit because the cage is still elevated when they both have their entrances and when they come out. And it starts to lower, and they're already fighting with each other.
Yep.
Swerve knocks Hangman down to the apron. It's literally holding his head in place where the cage is going to come down. Hangman grabs Swerve and pulls him down. So they're both just in position to get decapitated, and neither one's going to break the hold.
And Nana has to run up and basically push them into the ring, like, settle this without killing each other.
Because up to this point, he's been like tossing stuff in just so they'll have weapons before the cage comes down. But yeah, he's like, oh, they're not going to break it off. And yeah,
these two fools are going to kill each other. No.
Oh my god, this is another one where I want to list thing after thing because it's so crazy. But all right, let's zoom out a little bit because
if you've got the stomach for it, just go watch the match. First of all,
yeah.
Second of all, I will say this just in general: this is the closest a quote unquote unsanctioned match has felt to truly unsanctioned.
Yeah, like we are literally going to see something illegal happen in this ring.
Save for one moment. But we'll get there.
Yeah, we will. I will admit, I really do get what people object to about deathmatch wrestling. I get the idea that this isn't necessarily storytelling. It's just kind of like it's gross out, shock value. That sort of like GCW style of just like watch a match where guys are going to be like getting thrown into chainsaws and having light tubes shoved up their noses and whatever.
Right.
It's like, yeah, that I admit that does not hold a lot of appeal to me. Hardcore matches where it's just like you're going to be doing this because that's the stipulation. I get not finding a lot of appeal in that.
Sure.
Even outside from like the visceral reaction. But when you have a story that has earned the level of these guys wanting to do this to each other, then it's awesome.
Yes.
And it's like, as with all things, if it's not your cup of tea, totally get that.
Sure.
But you cannot pretend they didn't earn this with the story. And, oh man.
Yeah, it was visceral, and it just needed. It was visceral in the ways it needed to be.
They told a mini arc with Swerve and staple guns where he's actually built up a tolerance to this point that he just does not even seem to feel it when Hangman puts like 6 staples in his chest. Mm-hmm. And then he turns and he pulls out his own photo of his own childhood in the kitchen of that house that he totally lived in 100%.
Yes.
And staples that to Hangman's face, and it's just.
It's like there was a conclusion and a winner in this match, but it felt like nobody did.
And that was just the idea all the way through. And yeah, and we can talk about the spot you mentioned where just inexplicably in the middle of this unsanctioned, no rules.
It was a buy time moment, but it was inexplicable in the sense of this is unsanctioned. The ref is there merely to count to a conclusion. But he got in the like Hangman had hit Swerve with a chair, and he was kind of down, and he put this chair down and was going to go back for it to do something else, and the ref stopped him.
Yeah, he's like, "Don't do it." And to be fair, he's not treating it like an official thing, but he's just like, "You shouldn't do this."
Like he's like, "This is too far," and he's just like, "Hold on, the rest of the match has to happen."
Yeah, everything before this, everything that's going to happen after this, and
like this was post a Swerve getting out a cinder block.
Yeah,
and power bombing Hangman across the edge, just scraped his back.
Oh my gosh!
And that was legit. I don't know if 100% if it was a full-on cinder block, but it had weight to it.
It had enough edge to take skin off of Hangman's
and it was
back.
rough like a cinder block. Yeah, it was rough enough that it like you saw the scrape happen in real time.
And like you said, the setup to this is so that when the ref, it's Paul Turner, is bending over to pick up the chair, Swerve can then flip over him to try to do a buckshot on Hangman. And because Hangman emits a force field that prevents people from using his finisher against him, Swerve...
And it reacted so violently to CM Punk that it injured him.
Swerve actually stumbles a little bit, which almost never happens. That dude is such an operator that it almost never... I can't think of any time that
Funny enough, that was the only way to get a buckshot off because the cage was so close that it prevented that. And at one point, Swerve tosses him. Hangman goes to assess it. He
gets between the ropes and the cage and it's like...
I can't do this now. And then later, Swerve throws him into the cage, into the ropes, and he falls in.
Yeah. But it's so both men take spots on the cinder block. Swerve takes a straight power bomb. Like his back just bounces off the corner of that cinder block. And I legitimately was like, okay, maybe you could gimmick a little bit, but that's still an edge that you're hitting.
Like it was he was flat across the top of it, but it's a cinder block.
Oh my God.
Straight onto your lumbar.
And it's just, yeah. So, and it ends where it needs to, where both guys are just clear. They're bleeding. They're battered. They've taken insane stuff.
At one point, Hangman gets that chair on Swerve and hits him so hard the seat pops.
So that's actually almost the go home.
Oh, it is almost go home.
Yeah. So the ending is just like they're both tired. They're both exhausted, but Hangman's got a little more left in his tank.
Yep.
And so, he gets up and is just like walking around Swerve shouting, I told you to beg, now beg. And, Swerve, all he does is he gets back to his feet and he holds up 2 fingers, which could be a British insult, could be the number of times that he's beaten Hangman.
Either way, it's a fuck you.
Yeah. And so he's got nothing else because he collapses and Hangman just yanks the grill right out of his mouth.
Yep.
Because he doesn't want anything getting in the way of the hypodermic needle.
Full of an unknown liquid.
Yes.
That he jams. It jams into his cheek. And I don't mean through the outside. He opens Swerve's mouth and jabs it in the side and injects it.
Like he's about to do a dental procedure on him. And
you're going to feel numb in a second. And he did because he...
And that's when he gets out the chair and with like Swerve just on his knees, Hangman, so hard that the seat of the chair just pops out, which I'm guessing was gimmickry, but still looked nasty as all hell.
Yeah, it was gimmicked in that way. It's just like enough force and it pops out and it looks perfect.
And Swerve, very understandably, just goes limp and does not move. And at this point, the ref calls for a knockout.
Yep.
Like there is just nothing more to be done. So the cage is raised, and Hangman, he's going back up the ramp, and he gets to the top, and he looks back because the medics are in the ring. The Swerve is not moving at all. And Hangman starts to walk back down, and you hear the crowd just freak out. Like, what else can he do?
Yeah.
And you see in this beautiful moment, you see Hangman register the crowd making that noise and being like, what do you think? And just this moment of just what?
It's the am I the baddie moment.
Yeah.
And he turns around. And they didn't show this, but someone had footage of it after the camera's cut. He gets up to the top and looks at both of the entrances, and he pauses and he stands there for that, and then finally exits in the heel ramp.
Yeah, because through this whole feud, he has entered through the face tunnel because he has done nothing wrong. Swerve brought him to this point. Swerve did everything. I think he entered through the heel tunnel, though they didn't call attention to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, him going back out is him just accepting where he's gone, and it's
like even if you can argue he might not be the bad guy, he sure feels like it now.
Oh my gosh. I just realized I don't think I gave my score for the
you didn't.
Danielson Perry match. That one I gave also 4 1/4. Just really strong, great title defense. This one I gave 4 3/4. Very close to just. This is one of the best feuds AEW's ever had.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing given that it just kind of happened on this build to Wrestle Dream, and they just seem to realize they had something on their hands.
It's been running on all cylinders based thanks to the in-ring chemistry, the storyline, and the men working it. Yeah. They have knocked it out of the park.
Yeah. And Swerve especially, just the years that he's had in AEW, just this run building, I'd say really from the time his solo run started. He gave an interview where he was just like, every opportunity they gave me, whether it was Rampage, whether it was Collision, he's just like, I just want to show that I will take anything you give me and deliver with it. And yeah, man, just that dude is not leaving their A tier anytime soon.
And it paid off because the PWI 500 came out the other day, and he is number 2,
which is apparently the highest that a Black American wrestler, tied for the highest that a Black American wrestler has ever been on there.
The last time was The Rock in 2000.
Yeah. Who was number 1 on that list, actually?
Number 1, I believe, was Cody.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. But they had a lot of high placement on the list. I know Hangman was on there too.
Yeah.
And and Nana was rated top manager. Which,
again, very well deserved. He's not in this one so much because he's outside the ring, but I love, you think, oh, they're serious now. They're going to, he's going to just be walking down angrily beside. No, he's still doing the dance.
He did the dance, but
it is the serious dance. he's got his eyes narrowed and his gestures are restrained. He's done goofing around. Oh, man. But yeah, so what an amazing, like you said, deserves the unsanctioned label. Really has that feel of Like, just anything can happen. Like, looking forward to this one was just amazing. It's so great to be in that position where you're just like, I have no idea what I'm going to see when I get to the end of this pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. And even though, again, most of the outcomes, this was another one where I went back and forth on who I thought, quote-unquote, needed the win. But like you said, that almost really does not matter, that it's just about what they're going to do.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure they've got a story with where they're going with Hangman now, but like that's just secondary almost to what they're doing to each other in that whole segment.
It did feel right to have Hangman win in this instance, because now that he's gotten what he wanted, he's got that moment of, oh God, I got what I wanted.
Yeah, he's got to live with himself now that he's finally come all this way. All right, so yeah, wow, that was AEW All Out, and what I will say, I'm okay that we're not going to have any pay-per-views for a little while. It's been a hectic couple of weeks. I think there's a WWE one coming up later this month, but I will admit I can't remember.
Thankfully, that one won't be too violent for wrestling.
Probably not.
My God, the amount of people who just suddenly started, and everything they were like, that was too far. You can easily point to an earlier thing in WWE or ECW or any promotion. You can even further back, like I said with Flair and Funk. It's just like there's a corollary to like everything that's happened. It's happened before. It'll happen again.
You'll be shocked to know that a lot of people who talk about how the Attitude Era was the golden time of wrestling are actually lying and don't really want that.
They
back.
don't remember what they were watching because you had to get through a lot of chaff to get to the wheat.
I'm going to pull it up now. I remember when I was putting my notes together and looking at just like match times and things like that. The Wikipedia page for, oh, good Lord, it's still there. So the Wikipedia page for this show only had, at the time, it only had a reception, and the reception said, the main event was criticized for use of an unprotected chair shot to the head and the use of a hypodermic needle. And I went back and checked, and I'm looking at it right now. That's been expanded to say the main event was criticized by Jonathan Coachman, Ricky Morton, and PW Insider for the violence during the match between Strickland and Page, such as the use of...
Bullshit. It's
like,
absolute...
Well, once you lost Coachman, I don't know what.
Absolute fucking bullshit. This is not too violent for wrestling. You have forgotten because WWE had a stranglehold for 2 decades over content.
I find myself thinking, and not just because every time I'm in this booth and looking over at David, I think about this, about the movie The Prestige and just the conversations they have in that movie about magic and how people, do they really want to be fooled by what they're seeing? That, Hugh Jackman's character has a line where he's like, if people really believed what I was doing, they wouldn't be clapping, they'd be screaming. I mean, think about sawing a woman in half. And it's just like some people, I'm like, are you bothered when you actually, for a second, forget that you're watching a fake show? Like, is that not the magic? Is that not what you're here to do? Like,
speaking of movies, you're going to have to stop watching them if this is how you feel.
Apparently, yeah. So like all the criticism I assume for the John Wick movie for some severe violence with pencils, you shudder to think of what the children will think. Yeah. So again, I tried to say it earlier. If deathmatch wrestling, if like this kind of thing is not your cup of tea, totally get that. Like it is. I don't begrudge anybody who prefers like PG era style wrestling, and it's just like this is like I don't need to see people busted open, don't need to see the crazy stuff. That's fine. Wrestling is a huge, malleable medium, and there should be a lot of room for a lot of people to find different versions and different styles. But as with all things, it's the line between this isn't really for me and I can't stand that anybody else enjoys this.
Yeah,
right.
That is the thing.
Yeah, I refuse to see what anybody else might find engaging or rewarding about this.
Also, you were warned. Tony Khan says he books for the sickos.
Yeah, and like everything about this, the entire build to this is going to be one of the craziest, most violent things you've ever seen.
In all the advertising, it was like, this is unsanctioned. This is going to be wild. This is going to go places.
You saw what they did last time, for crying out loud. Yeah.
So if that's not your thing, you were warned.
Yeah, like, again, if somebody chose not to watch this, totally get that. Yeah. All respect. If somebody watched this and wants to complain like this was not what they were expecting, then sorry, you're just stupid.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's not. The train isn't stopping anytime soon. That TV deal is done, and we're going to hear about it in just, I don't know how long, but soon.
Yes, indeed. All right, so that is the end of All Out. I think Chris and I have identified which segment of our listening audience we think is stupid. It is and always will be Jonathan Coachman. David, anything you'd like to share?
Oh, not much. If you listen to the last This Is a Workover, you heard the announcement about the upcoming podcast that Robert and Kara and I are going to be doing called Long Walk Talks Lost, in which we do a Lost retrospective 20 years after its premiere. So the first episode of that is going to be coming out on the 20th anniversary of the premiere. So that's going to be Sunday, September 22nd. That will be the introduction of the show, give you an idea of how we got into Lost, what the format of the podcast will be like. And then the actual proper first episode is going to be premiering on Wednesday, September 25th, since Lost was ABC's Wednesday night flagship. So in that episode, we will be discussing the first 4 episodes of Lost, season 1 through 4.
Then we will watch the next 8 episodes of Lost, and the next 15 episodes of Lost, then the next 23.
Yeah. So we're only doing 6 episodes of the show, but by the end, they're going to be really long episodes.
We're contacting the producers to see if they can make more so we can really get all the way through that bit.
Yeah, exactly. I would not do that to our poor audience. We got that to look forward to. Robert, if people want to reach out to you online or follow you online somewhere that isn't Twitter, where can they do that at?
I'm on Instagram. I think it is still RedbeardRob17. I am, as we speak, just about to post a picture of a nice pork char siu I made earlier this week. It was very tasty.
Oh, you fancy, huh?
Yeah.
Chris, if people want to follow you online someplace that isn't Twitter?
I guess the only option is real life, so don't.
Oh, okay. Well, if you want to reach out to me online or follow me online, you can do that on Instagram at DBHensley. Robert, did you have anything, any final things you want to go through?
I just got to say, I give AEW All Out 4.25 out of 5 televised attempted murders. And folks, when you get out of bed in the morning, when you think about the job you have to go to, and you think about the people who love you, whatever you do, don't ever, ever, ever piss off Hangman Adam Page. Everything else will work itself out. All Out. This is a Work.